Oh, you see something. What do you see? What do you see? What's there? I just officially retired as a physician treating cancer patients because probably don't have very much longer to live. So that's kind of the process of life. How was that? How was the cold sore? Is it getting better? Is it getting better? Okay. I love you too, kid. Bye.
Anyone who understands that he has had this for 14 years doesn't believe it. Doesn't believe that, number one, that he's had the quality of life that he's had for as long as he's had, and that he's survived this long, that it's unheard of, that anybody with lung cancer would still be here 14 years later.
Here's this guy, a parent individual, who never took a pill in his life, had to be in perfect shape, and nothing was acceptable for me if it weren't. So here I was starting to have this excruciating pain. It was 6 months before I decided to take a narcotic, 6 months of bone pain. And my wife, Rita, you know, the Buddha, she said, you're fighting with life, you know? You're right, I'm fighting with life. And you know, and then, okay. So I take pain pills when I need to, and it's not like it solves all the problems, but the fighting is gone.
I can be so hopeful that something looks like it might be working, and he feels a little better, and he looks a little better, and something is stronger. And then he has an episode of pain that knocks him for a loop, and I'm so depressed and feel like the end is going to come tomorrow. He can't possibly survive another day. How is that possible? How could somebody have a heartbeat of 120 and make it through the night, you know? That's the roller coaster I can't get off.
I guess I've been a long-term seeker. I never would have thought of that particularly, but when I was in my 20s, I think, I went to a weekend, like, introduction to Zen with Rita. And I didn't like it, you know, I really didn't like it. And I got hooked by going to retreat after retreat.
We were going to, you know, Daibosatsu Zendo for a weekend, and doing walking meditations at 5 o'clock in the morning, and being beaten with sticks, and, you know, just all kinds of things. Again, looking for I don't know what.
So here it was, you know, enlightenment, another feather in my cap, you know. I'll just bust my ass, go to these Zen temples. I mean, nobody's going to work harder than I am. And, you know, I'll get enlightened. I'll get that too. And then I'll go on to my next thing, you know. Like my mother said when I was young, you know, first you become a doctor, then you can do anything you want. Eventually, after going to these sessions a couple of times, I had this mind-blowing experience. There was this complete and utter ecstasy and peace that I had never experienced before in my life. And it made every moment of my life seem like an anxiety attack. I try to get it back, I meditated twice as hard, I meditated 4 hours a day at home. I mean, like I said, you know, there's nothing like Zen for a compulsive person like me, like Rick.
I was trying to be supportive, you know, going to a lot of these things, but I frankly, even now, I don't get it. I mean, I don't get I don't really understand the oneness in the way he does.
Then I got diagnosed with cancer, and the desperation became even more, because now not only do I have to get that back, but I have to get my somehow I got into my head that my cells had to get enlightened in order for me to cure myself.
They took part of his lung, and they said that there was no chemo and no radiation that could help him, that would extend his life. And when we first heard that, we thought, great, you know, wow, you know, just that's it, we're done. But what we realized as time passed was because it was hopeless. You know, there was no point in doing any of those things because it wouldn't do anything to extend his life. Whatever was going to happen was going to happen. So Rick started studying and thinking about, you know, alternatives, and he went to every doctor under the sun. He tried every combination of alternative therapies, and he was taking, you know, 200 supplements a day. But it literally was painful to watch him because he was, you know, he was taking all the pills, and there was a desperation in all of this activity.
You know, I had started pulling away from everything in life in order to seek this enlightenment. You know, my family was always most important, and I started withdrawing from them and traveling without anybody. And, you know, no one could reach me. You know, like my wife couldn't sort of touch me emotionally. You know, she felt that I was distant, and I was. I mean, it's all. So it was her idea, actually, that we take a trip together, and we went to Costa Rica.
They were meditating, they were doing yoga, they were doing Brahma breathing, they were doing body talk, they were standing on their heads, you know, they were doing all of this stuff. And I felt like I should just shrink into a corner because I wasn't getting any, again, speaking as if it was a different language. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about half the time.
There was a talk. Nadine decided to give a talk, a satsang, and I was sitting there, and he said, consciousness is all there is, and you are that. Now, how many times have we all heard that, right? And I had heard that before, and it didn't touch anything. And somehow, in this moment, it just, of course, if consciousness is all there is, and you are that, where's this separate Rick character going to save his life? Who's impacting consciousness? Who's separate from consciousness to make consciousness change? And it just was so clear. There was a complete surrender. And it wasn't something that just, something I had to get back, because there was a recognition that there never was anybody. And everything started to just fit into place in a way. I would say makes sense, but it doesn't make sense in a kind of brain way. But it just seemed to be okay. And all the questions that were burning questions, they were just gone. They were just dried up.
When he was finished speaking, he said, does anybody have a question or a comment? So I raised my hand. I said, I'm so relieved. I said, because all these people are doing stuff and I just don't get it. And I said, you know, I just sort of go through my day. And he said, you're more enlightened than all of us, you know? And I just cracked up at the thought of it.
The struggle, the denial of death, the fighting with life, you've already surrendered. You're living the life that you're supposed to be living. This appearance is perfectly, exactly the way it's supposed to be. With all the pain, with all the suffering. It's the way it is.
I think the seeking is painful. For some people, it's so painful, and for him, it was. And he was willing to sacrifice so much to get this. When he had it, you know, it just like wouldn't let go and get it.
It all stems from a very precious belief. The belief is a priori because it actually infuses our language. We start every sentence with it in a way. We can't even open our mouths without already believing that we're separate individuals. So with this belief of being a separate individual, of course there's a feeling that there's something missing. Something has got to be missing. There must be something out there that'll complete me. This is the essence, I think, of the world of appearance, of the human condition. And along with this feeling of longing, there's a feeling of fear. And the fear is, I'll never get it. Or the fear is somehow that I, as an individual, will die before I get it. All of that comes from the idea of being an individual, as if you are really Zaya and that's it. So yeah, if you're really Zion, that's it. We're shit out of luck. Rick is shit out of luck. He was born, he's going to die, and he's going to be no more. The world is going to go on without him, and tough tamales. There seems to be I guess a hiding or a forgetting maybe of who we are, and in that forgetting there's a sense of limitation, a feeling of limitation. That feeling is lack, or you can call it unhappiness, you can call it misery, you can call it suffering. It's been called all kinds of things, but it's a feeling of lack or longing, and that takes any form. And there's nothing more or less spiritual about longing for riches, for sex, for spiritual, discovery. It's all the same. It's just the human condition expressing itself in this myriad of ways, and it's all oneness. Appearing is all that. There's no causality in life. There appears to be causality, but causality is also a concept arising in oneness. There's only this eternal now, the eternal present. All of it's done already. It's like it's all written. It's not written so that it's destiny, because it's a constantly changing now, a constantly unfolding now. You see from talking to Rita, she seems to be happy without search. What's that about? I remember telling her, don't you see how important this is? Just going shopping and seeing the kids, that's it. That's what life is all about. There's got to be something more. And she didn't, I just felt that she didn't get it. And really, I didn't get it. All of those questions in some way come from a desire to make things better. Like somehow, if we have the secret of life, we can tell people, right? We can tell people how to live. That life is short. You gotta. But that assumes that there's a person to tell someone, and that there's someone to be told, and that there's anything that's known about life other than that it's oneness.
Very recently, something happened, and 2 of our 3 children had medical scares, and both of them were kind of serious. And I remember thinking with God, please do not take my children. This can't be what I think it is. And both of them dodged a bullet. And I remember saying to Rick, because I have to make sense of it somehow. I have to make sense of all of this. I felt like he had to be the sacrifice to save the children, because that's his role. His role is always to give and to do and to take care of other people. And when I said that to him, his response was, then bring it on.
I've spent a lot of my life trying to help people to live, and that this role was going to be to help people to die.
I remember right after we got married, we were on our way to the honeymoon, and I started crying in the plane. And he said, what's wrong? And I said, I just feel like the plane is going to have to crash, because I can't possibly be this happy. I knew very early on that I was the luckiest person in the world to be married to him, and I still feel that way, and I can't imagine changing one bit of our lives, because it's been such a beautiful, wonderful ride, albeit too short.
My sons, they've said, I've tried enough for 1,000 years. Like I've tried enough for 1,000 dads. There's nothing that I could do to to make them feel that I gave up. So. Michael said this is the cleanest he's seen this table in years.
Company was coming. It's all behind the couch.
It's all an expression of love. When it's seen clearly in its totality, it's pure love.